So if I'm going into a performance appraisal discussion, having made that separation, okay, this is a person that that doesn't have a fatal flaw, they've got weaker areas just like we all do. I'm here to try to figure out how to get more of their strengths and how to build those strengths to towering strengths so that they will overshadow and people will overlook their weaker areas. So one example would be, maybe you've got somebody who's not great on detail and they're not terribly well organized and they show up late to meetings. And so here's where my own style can get in my way, because maybe I'm more obsessive about that stuff. Maybe that stuff is something that I really think is important. And yet our research, the Zenger-Folkman research, shows there is no correlation between organizational skill and being on time for meetings and those kinds of things and leadership effectiveness. None. Sometimes the best leaders in the database, the top 10% of leaders, are extremely well organized. Sometimes they're horribly organized. Sometimes the worst 10% of leaders in the database are extremely well organized to the point of being obsessive about organization. Sometimes they're terribly organized. So there's no correlation that shows organizational skill translates into better leadership. So if I go into this meeting thinking, okay, well, this person, the last couple of meetings, they've been late, they haven't been sending, they've missed a few details on their expense reports. And it's not like they're trying to be dishonest, but they're just kind of sloppy. And I'm going to really focus on that's an area for improvement. Well, what's going to be the outcome of that discussion? How energized is that person going to be? They hate detail. They're not good at organizing. What are the chances you're going to change them? Really tiny. So where are you going to end up with that discussion? Now you're going to be back in another 6 months. You're going to be harping on it some more. You're probably not going to get very far with it. So instead, if you say, well, this is not a fatal flaw, it is something that is somewhat irritating, and maybe I've heard other people kind of complain about this individual for that. But if I help them, let's say they're really good at building relationships, or they're really good at communication. It's not yet a top strength, but it's right up there. And their passion is there, because I want to have a conversation with them. All of these performance coaching discussions need to be prefaced or need to have the background of a career conversation. Oftentimes that context is missing. So I go into a performance discussion and I don't really understand the individual's aspirations. I don't really understand maybe what their passions are. We use a three kind of grid model, or we call it the CPO model. It's overlaying the competencies or strengths that person has with their passions, what is it that they love to do, with the need for their position, the organizational need. What do we need out of that role? So let's say I'm talking to someone who's in a sales role or a customer-facing role of some sort, and they're not great at detail. Maybe their technical skills are not the highest. They're not, it's not a fatal flaw, but they're not great. But wow, they're really strong at building relationships. They're very good at communicating. They can help to inspire other people. So I've got three things here, and they measure, if we do a 360, which is what a lot of this work is based on, those three areas come back as being 75th percentile. Well, if I can now sit down and start to say, how can we help you take those three areas, or just one or two of them to start, to the 90th percentile? Do you think that their coworkers will forgive them not being on time for meetings and other things if they get really good and bring in business and just shine in that position? Or if they're a leader already, if they get so good at that other people put them down as one of the top leaders they've ever had, people are going to forgive the weaknesses. They'll forget the weaknesses. Let's just, wow, working for this person is just really inspiring.